to protect wetlands and buffer zones that filter pollution and toxins, to stop invasive species. It's a $20–25 billion investment. The bottom line is, if we did those things, it's a huge, huge economic development boon for us in Michigan and Ohio and Pennsylvania and Wisconsin. In the long run, $80–100 billion of economic development benefit for us, short-term, long-term. So we made this argument together, got now President Obama and John McCain, when they were running, to take a pledge to follow through on the Great Lakes cleanup package that was in Congress, nothing happening. And since he's been elected, we have seen some action. We are seeing the administration spend money on Great Lakes cleanup, and we need to continue to do that because it's a huge jobs engine for places like Detroit, Milwaukee. These are billions of economic development. Short term, it's people going to work, engineering crews, design firms, rebuilding sewer systems, cleaning up toxic areas. Long term, it's all of those economic development benefits when you can develop near the water, when you can enjoy more recreation tourism because the beaches are open. It's a huge jobs program. Nice thing to do for the environment, jobs engine for our states. These swing states, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, in presidential elections, helpful to keep in mind. So this topic of today is a huge economic issue and engine and opportunity. Are we going to be the freshwater smart capital of use, technology development on Earth? We have that ability. We got the brains in the room who are leading the way. So thank you very much.
Thanks, John. Eloquent, uplifting as always. I organized the schedule here just so that I didn't have to follow John. Poor Alan does. You got that figured out? Wonderful. So we're going to hold and have Q&A after all four of us are done. So, Alan, you're up next.
John, that was great. We should just stop, I think, right here. Well, I'm going to try to focus on more of the research issues that are going on. So we've got this great resource here, and so what's all the fuss about? Well, the latest prediction is at least 36 of the states in our country will have severe water shortages by 2016. There's going to be an increasing demand on water. The American Society of Civil Engineers graded our infrastructure for drinking water and wastewater treatment plants across the country and gave it a D-. It's suggested by EPA administrator that it's going to take about $500 billion to upgrade that water and wastewater infrastructure out there. So these are plants that aren't doing what they should. They're overloaded. They're not cleaning the water like they should. They're not cleaning the waste like they should. The estimates for the Great Lakes are in the $15 billion range to deal with that infrastructure. We've still, John mentioned the areas of concern. We've got fish consumption advisories all over the nation and all over the Great Lakes, and that's particularly a concern because we have such a focus on recreation here in this state. We've taken some of these nasty chemicals off the market, but we replaced them with some others that are actually doing more harm than the previous chemicals did. So now we've got our wildlife and our fish, they're accumulating fire retardants that have been put on virtually everything. And we don't really know what this means. But the fact that it's getting into humans and it's getting into breast milk and being transferred to infants, that's something that we obviously should be concerned about. We've had, as John mentioned, massive wetland loss, which is really a huge deal when it comes to flood control and to actually cleaning up the waters that end up going back into the Great Lakes. Though we've got some great success stories like Milwaukee, virtually all of our urban waterways still have real problems, serious problems. And a lot of this is due to the diffuse runoff that's coming off our parking lots or city streets. If I was to collect a water sample off of any parking lot, it would actually be toxic. If I put fish in it, they would die. And so a lot of that water is going straight into our streams and into the Great Lakes. So we've got a long way to go when it comes to these issues, and we're going to have to do something about it. And so we started discussions last year when I arrived at the University of Michigan with Don and a lot of the research leaders across campus on a new sustainability focus. We've got so much brain power there, and with our collaborators at Michigan State and other universities, we wanted, and so many of these issues are so complex and interdisciplinary, the only way you're going to solve them is to get people working together. So we started one aspect of this, and I think Don will talk more later, is the Sustainable Waters Initiative, which is actually got us together and talking and focusing on different research themes. And it's not just the science or just the technology, but it's taking it to the next level. How does that affect jobs, the economy, policy decisions that are going to be made? The Co-operative Institute that I direct, which you may not be aware of, but it's the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration has about 22 of these cooperative institutes across the nation. The one we have in Ann Arbor is the NOAA Institute for the Great Lakes. This is a great thing because it's the gateway for research funding to get out to the universities. So if NOAA wants to do research and interact with university professors, that money will come through SILR, and we get it to our partner institutions, Michigan State, Grand Valley, University of Toledo. Every state in around the Great Lakes is part of our institute or represented by the institute. And here you see the areas that we focus on of research. These align closely with NOAA's Great Lakes Environmental Research Lab, this also in Ann Arbor. And as you know, it's an exciting time right now with the new research money that's coming in. The water themes that we're going to address with the Sustainable Water Institute, as I mentioned, cover economy, policy, energy, human health, and ecosystem health. And just a few examples of some of the research that's going on from the ecological forecasting perspective. And when we say ecological, I'm including everything. I'm including weather, wind, and waves. And we've got a buoy network that's being established across the Great Lakes. And Jen Reed, who is here, is heading up GLOSS, Great Lakes Observatory System, which is trying to network all of these buoys. And this is a great example of where the research done in the labs at the university have translated to jobs and economic benefits. So this particular buoy, which has got a series of sensors on it, which help the National Weather Service with their nearshore forecast. So this is important to boaters, obviously, recreational and commercial. This was developed by Guy Meadows in the hydrodynamics lab at the University of Michigan. That technology was then licensed to S2 Yachts, which some of you may know about, that's in Holland, Michigan. And they've created these things and created a lot of new jobs, and these are now being bought by people in the Great Lakes and even the Caribbean. So they've done a heavy marketing job, and it's showing a real benefit. Another assessment that ties in close to home is an integrated assessment, where when we say integrated, it's looking at all of the issues in Saginaw Bay that are causing problems. So you may be aware of beach muck. Here's a little picture of this algae that's now growing on the bottom of the lake because the zebra mussels have cleaned up the water so much that the sunlight gets to the bottom and algae grows, kind of like in your fish tank. But this stuff gets thick, it dies, it washes up on the beaches, and so we've got beaches covered with muck, and nobody goes to recreate there anymore. They're going other places. So there's an economic analysis that's going on with this, and you've got the scientists trying to figure out what is it that's causing these problems so that we can correct those. Another project that Don Scavia is leading, again, it's a forecasting kind of modeling effort, but here you see a picture of Lake Erie and the western basin there, and red is bad. That's where